So here's the thing, Days of Summer for Black Ops 4 is absolutely massive. There's good and there's bad, but the actual content that came along with it, the download itself, it's pretty big, pretty hefty. 12 gigabytes of content just about released today for PlayStation 4 users. Xbox One and PC will get it next week as of next Tuesday. And honestly, there's a lot up on deck. So today we're gonna break down absolutely everything that changed here with this new update, what you can expect to jump into if you haven't done so already, and maybe some things you may have missed along the way. Now, there are some things that we'll talk about in a later points as of probably tomorrow, but today, just the pure information, no bias, none of my personal opinion in any of this. Just gonna be talking about what's on deck here for all you guys. So that said, let's just jump right into it because there is a lot. So let's get in. First things first, the absolute earliest thing you'll end up seeing is a brand new loading screen for Black Ops 4. This is, of course, indicative of Days of Summer. It's got all sorts of new summer themes with it. So how we've seen a new loading screen with every operation so far, Spectre Rising, Grand Heist, Absolute Zero, this is now the same thing, but for Days of Summer. And once you get past that, you'll be met with, of course, a brand new main menu screen with 3 of the 4 main game modes having a brand new icon with it. MP as Capture the Flag, Blackout as Ground War, and Labors of Hercules is the Zombies one as well, with a new black market icon as well. Now, right at the beginning here, one thing that I will say that was really cool that was added in is that we have our first community contract of Black Ops 4. Before we jump into MP, Blackout, or Zombies, because this is going to account for all of those, one thing to consider is that just by simply playing, you help the community reach a goal of getting the Grav Assault Rifle from previously Blackout and Zombies. In MP, we have to get 15 million matches completed within about a 19-day total. It seems like it's a running total of 20, but because it started today, it's now 19 days and a few hours and change. But this is something that's returning from Black Ops 3, World War II, and so on and so forth, where all we got to do is simply play and we end up getting rewarded. I would imagine it's the same thing as of, say, last time, where you had to take part in the event itself to at least log on once or twice, and then you'll get it as well. But that said, 15 million public matches in any of the game modes, so that's something to consider as well. Now, jumping though firstly into MP, because I'm sure that's where a lot of you guys are focused around, probably the biggest thing that we end up having here is actually a brand new map for free. That kind of sounds crazy, but it's very similar to what we saw with Nuketown back in November. The map from Black Ops 2 Grind is actually free to play, and it's a reintroduction of that classic DLC map. It's exactly how you remember it, at least so far from what I've seen, and it should be in the rotation for all and available with absolutely no problem. Honestly, again, I'll say that despite some BS that we'll talk about later on, probably in either the video just mentioning it or again diving deeper into my thoughts as of tomorrow, this is pretty cool that we ended up getting a free map that not really anybody was expecting. Doesn't negate some of those feelings, but it's something that I'll take this for what it is and enjoy it. Outside of that, we end up having brand new modes of CTF that launched today, in which the classic Call of Duty mode has made its return, and the featured game modes here for today on PlayStation 4, for those that do have Days of Summer, are Capture the Flag, Infected, Prop Hunt, Bare Bones Deathmatch, and Bolt Action Bare Bones Mosh Pit. The Bolt Action Bare Bones playlist is kind of a V2 again here because they took out equipment as well as launchers this time around, so bear that in mind. And then for Xbox One and PC, players end up having Bolt Action Bare Bones, Prop Hunt, Infected, Bare Bones Deathmatch, and the Endurance Mosh Pit. Outside of that, there was also some tuning elsewhere in MP. Things like the SG-12 with a strobe light ended up having an adjustment here for this. It no longer affects aim assist for players who have TAC mask equipped on their class. Bullet penetration has been increased for ARs, SMGs, tactical rifles, and pistols for going through players, making collateral damage a little bit more, but not adjusting things like the damage through sheet metal or walls or anything like that. The Shadow Blade also has a cooldown, so it takes a little bit longer to work your way up to the Shadow Blade as Spectre now. And then also for Spectre in particular, it also improved the camera rotation while attacking, and also the Shadow Blade can now destroy a trophy system. Other specialist changes include a lowered K9 unit health for Nomad, and then Ajax, 9-banging an enemy with tactical mask equipped no longer earns the flashed enemy score event. One thing that many might not catch on immediately until you end up jumping into a match and having to customize your class is that actually in the create a class system itself, the way you choose signature weapons and mastercrafts are now a little bit different. You now have to select your weapon, and then it's got a couple of different variations you can choose from, either the base, the signature, or the mastercraft there available with it, and you'll be able to tell which ones have those signature and mastercraft available with it by simply seeing the circular dots in the create a class and weapon selection menu. For MP, that's kind of it outside of the content, which we'll talk about in just a second, that was added in via the contraband stream and other things like that. But let's flash over to Blackout real quickly here at this, because first things first, we end up having a massive update to the map itself. First things first that you might notice when you jump in is that it's a brighter map, probably the brightest that we've had at this point, I think, and that's not a bad thing, just different. It's almost like the sun is directly overhead, so there's not as many shadows, no real lens flare and gunfights when you're looking up a hill or anything, and so on and so forth. So in that regard, it might take a little bit of time to readjust, but I think it's pretty good where it's at now at this one. Additionally, some new adjustments have been made to the POIs and the map overall. Hydro Dam is being reconstructed, Hijacked is now over by the Cove in Nuketown, Cargo is now getting reconstructed and it's in that sort of rebuilding phase, so there's a bit more put together with that, and the biggest part is that the floodwaters have now receded, so you shouldn't be as terrible for mobility and also very loud when you end up plopping through with your footsteps. I think this is good, and of course it's awesome to see that it will be sort of adjusted on what seems like a little bit of a faster timetable now at this point. I'm all for it. There's also a new game mode which was introduced, that being Ground War. We've talked about this here on the channel. 50v50, and it's interesting. It's not as brilliant as I had hoped for initially, but that's also probably due in part because the fact of the half dozen or so games that I first played here, half my team was pretty much instantly down, or we were down by like 20 players within the first minute and a half or so. So it definitely tilted the playing field in one way that really made it hard to win. Outside of that, it is definitely a different approach to how you play it. You don't have the full map to yourself. There's 2 drop zones, and the zone is already closed in, so it's a much smaller play area in that regard, that you don't have as much loot to choose from, but at the same time, it's also probably good because the mode itself already plays kind of slow up until the very end, so opening up to the full map would probably make it even slower. So ultimately, you just have to hope that you have a competent team, because otherwise you might have a bad time. I'm certainly excited though to jump in and play it for a bit more, get myself out of the honeymoon phase and get my real feelings on it to come forward. So until then, definitely urge you to jump in and test it out for yourselves. Outside of that, there's not really all that much more outside of the different changes to the aesthetic of it. You have some things that are Days of Summer themed, like picnic tables, grills, all sorts of things you'll see around the map, and apparently there are coolers that will contain, just like how Shamrock and Awe did, a bunch of paint cans for this. I can't say that out of the, again, half dozen or so games that I've played of Ground War that I've found one just yet, but it's said by the official Activision blog that it will be in there, and so therefore maybe it's just in the regular game modes, but I haven't come across that just yet. Get to hunting. Hopefully you can end up knocking out some of the camos that you want within Blackout with this help. There's also things like water balloons and also the Quackna Rock, which are zombies dressed in duck floaties, so different aesthetic changes here with that one. The attack helicopter was added in as well as Outrider's Hawk drone is now accessible in Blackout matches as well, but the one thing that goes along with that is that you actually have to control it. You can't park it, so in that sense it's definitely nicer. It would have been very similar, I think, to how the sensor dart would have worked, but probably a lot closer range because it shows obviously where those players are with that outline, but still something to consider. Other than that, we end up having different playlist adjustments here for this, where on PlayStation 4 there's Ground War, solos, duos, and quads, and you can notice how Alcatraz has actually been taken out, but we'll talk about that in just a second here. But on Xbox One, you also have Hot Pursuit, solos, duos, quads, and actually ambush solos. So you can play the sniper only game mode here on Xbox One, and that's also the featured playlist on PC as well. Additionally, for Blackout, there's a few more different things. The Galil now supports attachments in Blackout because, well, like we mentioned, it's going to be coming to MP, so they had to work it around for that. So you can now put attachments on in Blackout for the Galil. And then another smaller thing is that for things like Down But Not Out, those modes that you can end up respawning in or dropping back in, you now have the ability to go with a coward's way out if you're downed. So if you're in, say, Alcatraz, there's no longer that chance that somebody can wait you out until after the next respawn wave. You can make it in time just by simply your own choice. But rounding out the Blackout side, let's talk a little bit about something that's going to be coming not today, but instead next week. And it might be dropping for all, I can't imagine though, but it's going to be coming to PlayStation 4 at least as of next Tuesday the 11th, an Alcatraz map update. This is something that can be seen in the trailer for Days of Summer, but it looks like they've added a submarine and a shipwreck for new POIs on that map. So that'll be cool. I'm a huge fan of Alcatraz and the pace of it, so definitely play that a lot. So I'm excited to see some adjustments to that made, as well as the regular Blackout map and some of the game modes we've seen also added in. So bear that in mind if you're a Blackout fan. Next week's gonna be pretty cool as well. As for zombies, we end up having a brand new gauntlet, the Labors of Hercules for the Ancient Evil. Of course, that's a new 30-round challenge-based system here with this one. You end up having a couple of new elixirs added in. The return of Perkaholic. You have another one called Near-Death Experience. You have Raindrops, and then Shopping Free. So returning things from Black Ops 3 and some things that in the zombies community definitely made it easier, and so therefore some people may not be too happy with this, some people may be happy with this. It really all just comes down to your own personal opinion here on it. Unfortunately, this means that there is also no information thus far on factions, something we're still waiting on and we're promised within this operation. So the question now turns to you, Treyarch. Where's the factions at, man? give us some transparency on that. Was not in this update, but is something that hopefully still comes before the end of this update, so they can still be taken at their word for that. Now, the only thing that also was changed here outside of these 3 main game modes, there were some adjustments to the reinstating of the penalties for league play, but outside of that, the only thing that changed comes down to content added in via the contraband stream and new reserve and shop items. This is where we're going to reserve our judgment until tomorrow, so what you're going to get today is the cold hard facts, and I do apologize if some of my opinions here bleed over into this video. I'll try and keep it as neutral as possible, but you end up seeing that you have a brand new 50 tiers in the contraband stream. Of this, you end up having, I believe it was 33 calling cards, tags, stickers, and things like that. You get a few uniforms, which are actually pretty cool. I gotta say, the Frogman outfit for Recon actually is pretty cool. Then at tier 25, you end up having a weapon bribe, which is a guaranteed no dupe ranged or Mark II weapon from reserves. And then also you end up getting at tier 50 that sniper of the Vendetta. So finally we ended up seeing that it was introduced again in the game files around the time of Grand Heist launch. It actually predated the launch on PC even, and so therefore this has been in the game files for quite some time, finally now making its way into it here with it. It's the fastest firing in its class with a large ammo pool and eliminates in 3 shots. So not the best sniper here, being that it's 3 shots, but still is something to consider. Then you end up seeing that in the Blackjack shop, curiously enough, even though it's the same operation, the first 5 weeks of Operation Spectre Rising have actually gone away. Instead, it's now replaced with the Treasure Vault camo, the Skipper Profit Bundle, and then also the brand new Swordfish Mastercraft tethered with 8 reserve crates. There's also the Summer Break Bundle, in which it's a brand new variation of Menendez, plus a weapon charm for Blackout, and then also a couple of crates as well. Now here's the thing, we didn't have any camos or any Mastercrafts or reactives in the Contraband stream. So again, I'll say it again like I did with the Operation Spectre Rising launch, why weren't these things in the Contraband stream? But here's where we start to get to probably the most polarizing topic, which again is a big portion of what we'll talk about as of tomorrow. We had a brand new introduction of new reserves, with of course a bunch of new items added in, and curiously enough, multiple weapons added in. Not via the Contraband stream, not via anything that you can earn organically, but instead in the RNG loot pool of the reserves. The weapons of the S6 Stingray, the Peacekeeper, the Locust from Black Ops 3, as well as the Peacekeepers from Black Ops 3 as well, and the Ballistic Knife are now available only in reserves. So that means that, of course, you do end up having a weapon bribe, in which you do at tier 25 get a dupe protected chance at that, but given the fact that there are Mark II weapons included in that, well, you have about an 8% chance, less than that actually, of getting what you actually want, given the new items already added in. So that, to me, not a fan to say the least. It's holding back quite a bit here at this, but that's something that has changed out as of today, and probably looks to change how we end up seeing DLC weapons introduced in Black Ops 4 as a whole. Something that Black Ops 3's way, which is by and far, in my mind, the worst way we've seen DLC introduced in any of the Call of Duty titles to date, has now come back down to that mark of, well, we thought we wouldn't get there. We did. The only redeeming factor here for this is that we do have contracts coming back to Black Ops 4 as of late June. That's something that says their next title update is going to include that. So here's the hoping we can end up getting 4 or 5 weapon bribes each, or maybe even more, because of course they include Mark II weapons now. So unless you literally get left out to dry, well, dude, there just has to be some way to organically get these, not to spend hours and hours and hours for duplicates, and then maybe, just maybe, you have that 0.01 chance of getting the item you end up wanting. It should never have gotten to this point, in my opinion. Outside of that, though, the only things coming up in the Blackjack shop are, of course, newer special orders as the time progresses. It was mentioned that Sergey is going to be a Blackout character. David Mason is one that was added in reserves, but then we also will have the Deep Voyage Mastercraft for the Spitfire coming as well throughout the events also. But other than that, that is everything here that did change with Black Ops 4's Days of Summer update as of today. Like I mentioned earlier, I actually am really happy with a lot of the stuff here that we had, but as you'll see with tomorrow, it's just that one thing that sours the entire bunch for all of this for me, and it's every single update like that. So we'll talk more about my thoughts, my opinions here on all of that as of tomorrow, but just again, giving you guys the pure information here. This is everything that changed with Days of Summer. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is there anything in particular you're really looking forward to to jumping in and trying out for yourselves. Maybe that be Blackout's Ground War, maybe that be the brand new sniper rifle at tier 50, whatever it may be. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, MP, Blackout, zombies. We got you covered the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of that interests you, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best place to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. Well, let's send out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.